You know that line from The Godfather? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Forgive my bad impression. But yeah, that's me with role-playing games. I've quit. I've sworn off. I've told myself I'm done with the stress, done with the GM prep, done with the late nights. And yet I always find myself coming back to the table. So the question is, why? Why do I keep coming back? And bigger still, why does humanity itself seem to need these games more than ever before? On the surface, RPGs are huge amounts of fun and an outlet for imagination. That's obvious. But the real magic? It's the spontaneous creativity that happens in play. The botched die roll, the desperate gamble, the wild idea that no one saw coming. Suddenly the whole table is laughing or gasping or leaning forward, hungry to see what happens next. That spark is addictive. But it's also intimidating. I've seen many new players freeze the moment the GM asks, "And what do you do?" Because RPGs demand something we almost never practice as adults: improvised imagination in front of other people. It can feel like being thrown on stage without a script. But when you take that leap, that's where the joy lives. If you're new to RPGs or just wanting to try one out as a player, don't freeze. When that moment comes, just try something. Anything. The table isn't judging you. They're excited to see what happens next. And everybody else? What's the funniest or wildest what do you do moment you've ever seen at the table? I've come to think of storytelling as cultural medicine. It always has been. Myths, legends, fairy tales weren't just entertainment. They helped people process fear and death and joy and change. They gave us tools for making sense of chaos. Role-playing games are a stronger dose of that same medicine. Psychologists and psychiatrists have used role-play for decades under different names as a way to explore trauma, rehearse situations, or build empathy. What Dave Wesley, Dave Arneson, and Gary Gygax did was democratize it. They gave us all access. Suddenly, anyone with a set of dice and some imagination could step into that safe story space and find catharsis there. That's what RPGs really are. A great deal of fun that might also serve as a form of therapy from time to time. I suggest that after your next game, take notice of how you feel afterwards. Did you laugh harder? Did you forget your day-to-day stress for a while? That's the medicine working. I wonder, has a game ever helped you through a tough time? Share your story. I'd love to hear it. But they're more than just potential therapy. They're also a way of reclaiming something modern life has stolen from us: the ability to play. Think about it. As kids, play is natural. We learn. It's how we learn. How we bond, how we grow. But as adults, we're told to be serious, to be productive, to monetize our time. Play becomes a guilty pleasure, or something we're told to outgrow. RPGs break that cycle. They give us adults permission to play again, to imagine, to laugh, to pretend, to swing a sword at a dragon, or cast a spell, or sneak past a guard, without anyone telling you to act your age. And that's vital because play isn't just for kids. Play is human. It keeps our creativity alive, our resilience strong, and our joy intact. Role-playing games remind us that it's not only okay to play, it's necessary. I would suggest that if you haven't played in a while, set aside even one night this month just for play. Doesn't have to be a big elaborate campaign, just a goofy one-shot counts. And tell me, What's the most fun, silly, or joyful moment you've ever had at your table? RPGs are also a kind of rehearsal space, a release valve, because all the play happens in an imaginary world. You can try out new ideas, new identities, or even new moral stances in complete safety. You can step into bravery or trickery, compassion or cruelty, and then leave it all behind when the night ends and the game is done. And that makes RPGs a powerful release valve for the pressures of real life. Bob the accountant can become Borak the barbarian, cleaving his way through hordes of goblins. That aggression, that frustration he bottles up during the week, he gets to channel it through his alternate persona, and then return home calmer, lighter, a better husband and father. It's not escapism in a cheap sense. It's catharsis. It's practicing emotions and releasing tension in a way that's safe, fun, and ultimately healthy. I suggest that you notice what emotions you're channeling through your character. Anger, courage, goofiness. Oh, I've done that. Go ahead and let them out at the game so you don't have to carry them home bottled up inside you. I know I've done that. I really have. But be careful. Don't direct them at your fellow players. Only at the various monsters, NPCs, and maybe even the other player characters from time to time. But it goes even deeper. RPGs aren't just a release valve. They're also a sandbox for exploring identity and morality. Because you're playing in an imaginary space, you can experiment. You can try on courage or compassion or cruelty and turn it up to 11 and see how it feels. You can explore leadership or sacrifice or selfishness, choices you might never dare make in real life. And sometimes what we learn at the table lingers. Maybe you discover you could be braver than you thought. Maybe you realize how hard it is to lead. Maybe you find empathy for perspectives you've never considered before. That's another reason RPGs are medicine. They let us rehearse not just our emotions, but catch a glimpse of the people we might become. Try this. Next time you build your character, try to push yourself. If you're usually quiet, try being louder. Try being a leader. If you're usually cautious, play the reckless one. I wonder, has any of you ever learned something from yourself about a character you've played? I know I definitely have. Maybe that's why we need them now more than ever. Because let's be honest, the world feels heavy. Stress, political polarization, economic uncertainty, war, conflict, all of it. Many of us feel powerless. But at the gaming table, you have agency. You can choose. You can fight. You can change the outcome. And in a fractured society, RPGs also rebuild community. They force us to gather, to laugh, to listen, to negotiate, and collaborate. They let us practice resilience. They give us a safe space to rehearse hope. I recommend that next time you feel powerless in real life, remember that sense of urgency you had at the table and carry a little bit of it into your day. I think you'll be surprised. Tell me, folks, has a game ever inspired you to face real life changes differently? Now I'll get personal. I often fall into misanthropy. I tell myself I don't need the outside world, that I'm fine with just my home, my hobbies, and my wife. And honestly, it's a comfortable mindset. But when I drag myself out to play, whether it's a board game or an RPG, I almost always enjoy myself. I leave feeling lighter, energized, more human, which makes me wonder about something. Today, so many people default to playing virtually. Roll20, Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, they're all great tools. And they do connect people across distances. But they're not the same. Because when you're really at the table, you hear the laughter ripple. You see someone's expression change. You share snacks and dice and eye contact. And that breathes life into the story. So I wonder, is it truly impossible to find face-to-face groups? Or is it something, I don't know, is it sometimes just the hobbit hole effect? It seems easier to stay inside, easier to avoid the hassle of travel, scheduling, and small talk. But RPGs are supposed to be a bridge back to the community. And maybe if we only take the easy road, we're missing what makes them powerful in the first place. If you ever find that you've been hiding in your hobbit hole, schedule one face-to-face game. Even once every couple of months makes a difference. Please, I'm really curious. Do you prefer playing face-to-face or online? And why? And while we're talking about gathering, let me touch on something else. Table talk. I've known GMs who get downright prickly when players drift into chit-chat, whether it's during a lull between scenes or even while the spotlight's on someone else. And sure, too much side conversation can derail the momentum. But let's be honest, a certain amount of table talk is normal and inevitable. For many players, game night is the only time they've managed to gather with their friends in weeks, maybe months. Jobs, kids, commitments. They walk in the door just before the time to start with no chance to catch up, and the dice hit the table, and between goblins and dragons, someone cracks a joke, shares a story from work, or perhaps laughs about something that happened years ago, and that laughter rolls around the table. Is that really a problem? Or is that the point? Because yes, GMs pour hours into their prep, but the real goal isn't the perfect execution of my story. The real goal is to spend a pleasant evening together. And if, for a few minutes, the players are more interested in each other than the plot, that's not failure. That's friendship doing its work. Not that you asked for my opinion, but don't sweat the chatter. A little table talk isn't a distraction from the game. It's part of the game night. It's how friendships breathe. How does your group handle table talk right now? Do you embrace it or try to keep it under control? What's your funnest or most memorable off-topic moment at the table? And here's another reason I think face-to-face RPGs matter so much right now. Because look at the digital world we live in. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X. It's an endless stream of dopamine hits and tribal reinforcement. Every scroll pushes you deeper into your own echo chamber. Every click teaches the algorithm what outrage or comfort to feed you next. And slowly, it eats away at your ability to just be in polite society with people outside your tribe. That's where RPGs come in as a remedy, because they force us to sit down with people, sometimes very different people, and cooperate. Not argue, not dunk, not block, but cooperate. At the table, you can't just walk away because the cleric voted differently than you did in the last election. You need the cleric to heal you after that fight with the ogre. You need the rogue to open that chest. Tabletop RPGs rebuild muscles that social media is actively eroding. Patience, empathy, cooperation, and the ability to live in community with people who aren't just copies of ourselves. In other words, the table is practice for being human together. And in today's society, today's fractured world, that's a medicine we desperately need. I would suggest that maybe you might want to treat your next game table as a practice for real life situations. Listen, cooperate, laugh with people outside your bubble. Has gaming ever helped you connect with someone you've never expected to bond with? I know, it did with me. And here's the dangerous thought that's nagging at me. Maybe the effort of gathering in person is part of the medicine. Maybe not just dice or the rules, but the hassles, the scheduling, the travel, the negotiation of space and snacks. That makes it therapeutic because it forces us into connection. And what if, without the effort, the medicine curdles? What if role-playing without presence becomes a slow-acting poison? Not because the games are bad, but because they quietly reinforce our isolation, our misanthropy, our illusion that we really don't need other people. That's a chilling thought, but it might be worth wrestling with. I say don't skip the hassle, the snacks, the scheduling headaches. They're part of the cure, not an inconvenience to avoid. Share with us, what's your funnest snacks at the table or scheduling disaster story? There's something else about RPGs that fascinates me. When we retell our adventures, we don't talk in third person. We don't say, my character did this or your dwarf almost died. We say, remember when we crossed the rope bridge? Remember when you dropped the lantern and set the whole damn thing on fire? Remember when Bill's dwarf had to cling to the planks for dear life? It's always we, always I, always you. We remember these stories as if they actually happened to us. They become part of our lived memory. Like that road trip with friends or that time that you got caught in the rainstorm. That's one of the great secrets of RPGs. The memories feel real because in the moment they were real. We were there together creating them. I know the cautionary tale of, let me tell you about my character. But don't keep those stories bottled up. Retell them, write them down, or share them here. What's that one game story that your group still tells years later? Inquiring minds want to know. And here's why RPGs don't just create fun stories. They create living myths. Every culture has gathered around fires to tell tales of heroes and tricksters, monsters and gods. Role-playing games put us right back at that fire, except now the heroes are us. When you look back and say, remember when our paladin sacrificed himself to save the village? That's a legend. That's the story that will outlive the night we played it. In a world where so much feels fleeting, share those myths. They matter. They remind us that our stories can endure, that our imaginations can leave a legacy. And that's one of the reasons why RPGs are a unique form of entertainment. I recommend that you and your players treat your campaign like the myth it is. Ask yourselves, what legend do we want to leave behind when this story is done? In your opinion, what's the greatest legend your table ever created? So why do we play RPGs? Because they heal us, because they connect us, because they give us a space to play, to release, to rehearse, to imagine, to create, to remember, and to be human together. And maybe in a world that feels more fractured, stressful, isolating than ever, we need them now more than ever. So I'll leave you with this. Why do you play? And what keeps pulling you back in? Well, thanks for watching. And I guess we'll call this one done. And I look forward to seeing you again in the Midnight Lair.